Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. I didn't press the button early today. I was very intent on getting the button press correct for the start of today's show. For those of you who weren't with us last week, I accidentally started the show was only by a number of probably 20 seconds early, but suddenly I realized, I've pressed the button. We've started. Here we are. I hope you are all well and having a good week. I was just chatting with Linda in the live chat earlier on, and it's quite crisp down in Tassie, Linda. We're a confusing 20 degrees Celsius here today. I say confusing because just before I started the show, I didn't have a jacket on, and then I was sitting here going, I feel a little bit cold. What should I do? Hang on a second. I'll quickly put a jacket on, and then hang on a second. No, I better anyway. If I get off mid-show because I'm starting to sweat, please understand. We are today going to be doing a webinar, as in one of our mini topics that are not so mini. We're going to be talking about harmonisation and group singing. Interesting topic. It's a topic that I don't typically spend a lot of time teaching, because I teach, all of my students are individual students, as in one-on-one lessons. But I have had quite a bit of experience in the past, which I'll explain a bit more later on, in ensemble singing, choirs, harmony work. We'll get to that in a moment. Before we do, a couple of things. Linda, in the usual, hi Daniel on a Monday morning email, has told me that today, get this, today is World Never Give Up Day. My response to Linda was, there is a World Day for everything. But this one's a good one, I think. World Never Give Up Day. I think that, as Linda pointed out in her email, is quite applicable to us here at Voice Essentials, because I guess one of the long-term challenges of learning to sing is that it's a lifelong journey. You never actually arrive. So it could be all too easy to kind of burn out and give up along the way. So sometimes it's a nice reminder, never give up. Certainly there can be times where we need to take a break, and that's okay. But we don't want to give up because we're defeated. I hope that's never the case for us. Next week, we are going to be having another special guest on the show. This is going to be, the special guest next week is a long-term colleague of mine. She's from South Australia, Adelaide, South Australia. It's for those of you who don't know Australia, that's about 2.5 hours flight from me. So it's quite a distance. Anyway, we're having Tania Savelli come on to the show, and Tania is a working, gigging singer. She does the BVs, the backing vocals, at times for Hindley Street HSCC, Hindley Street Country Club. And I have recently started to do some of my reaction videos I'm doing to HSCC. So Tania is on a number of those videos that I'm reviewing. But not only is Tania an excellent singer in her own right, she is also a highly schooled singing teacher. And so next week we're going to have Tania. What I want to talk to Tania about is her approach to her gigging and working with gigging singers, as I do, through the eyes of that dual capacity as also a fellow gigger, but a fellow gigger and a singing teacher. I think it'll be a really fascinating discussion, and I'm hoping we can learn a bit more about Hindley Street Country Club That's a mouthful. It is easier just to say HSCC. If you haven't checked them out, I highly recommend them. They're a covers band, but a really, really high-end covers band. Great sound, great singers, and great musos. So today's topic, as we're going to look at today, we're going to be talking harmonisation. I'll get it out. So, accordingly, in the poll question today, I'm asking, what is the trickiest part of harmony singing? Now, when I put this together, I was able to, once again, I could probably tick all four, and I could probably preference at different points in my singing career, some of these have been more challenging for me than others. Number one, finding my starting note. Two, staying in tune with others, not drifting into the melody, and breathing at the right time. We've had 12. It just clicked over as I read it. 12 votes so far. We will always have a look at the results of that poll at the end. So far, it's relatively evenly spread, though there is one clear winner, to which I'm kind of not surprised. Anywho, let's get into looking at harmony, and I've got to come across here, and we do that. So let's talk about harmonisation and group singing. This is a hard thing to learn to do, because you kind of have to do it to develop in the skill. Now, you rightly could say, well, Daniel, that's the case for everything. Yeah, but you can't. There is some theory, of course, to harmony singing, but really the way we develop this skill is very much to find yourself singing with others. And as we're going along today, we might even make mention of some of the AI tools that you can now use, like Moises, and that enable you to sing along with different things. And I will just put a plug in. There is harmony work at the very end of Voice Essentials 3. For those of you who have already got the Voice Essentials program, you will already know this. Why is it at the end of Voice Essentials 3? Because you need to develop your individual voice first to become really good at being an ensemble singer / harmony singer, because you've got to be able to manage and govern your own sound and tone in a healthy, sustainable way before you start blending it with others. And I think as some of the points we're going to cover today are going to kind of get into that. So let's lay some groundwork to start with. How do we get into this? And it's, you know, I've often said, and you may have even heard me say it here on the channel, the first thing you have to do is listen. Before you open your mouth to sing, listen. And when learning harmony, the first thing you must absolutely learn is the melody. You need to know what you are pitching against and harmonizing with, and that's really important. And so you want to actively focus on others before adding your voice. One way you can do that, and if it's possible, this is not always possible. If possible, try to have your right ear actually angled in such so that you can have your right ear to the singer that you are harmonizing with. That is definitely not always the case, especially if there's three singers and there's you want to have the melody in the middle or what have you in the way you're staging. But certainly when you're learning, try to have the right ear angled to the lead vocal. And remember, you're not only going to lock into the melodic line being sung by the lead, you also need to be thinking about rhythm, tone, pitch, and the rhythm part is lending itself to the idea of phrasing. So be thinking about phrasing. As we continue, I do want to just qualify some of these are going to be pointers today. Where in one sense we are talking about harmony and harmonization from a very theoretical standpoint today, even though I said before that you can't do that. We are going to be giving you some pointers so that when you do find yourself singing with others, you'll be able to do that effectively. When you are singing harmony and let's say you're the backing vocalist, it is really important that you place blend above all else. It is not your job to be heard out the front of the mix. We need to allow the vocal, the lead vocal, to sit out the front. Can I tell you, having reviewed the HSCC videos recently, we're having Tania on next week. Tania is a master at being able to blend her voice in behind the lead vocal so that the lead vocal is so much more than it would have been by itself, but never to a point where you feel like Tania's voice, the backing vocal, is being overbearing. It's a real skill. It takes a lot of fine tuning with your vocal. And we do that by matching our vowel shapes, our tone, our volume. And you've got to think about this as a team sound. Think about it as a landscape. What is it? Where do you sit in the landscape? So important. And then where you need, more often than not always, but more often than not, you need to be able to blend your voice in tonally. I last Wednesday was giving a masterclass for the Brisbane City Council's senior cabaret concerts. I've been doing this for about 7 or 8 years. It's a fantastic program, and over a few hours I get to listen to individual singers get up, and sometimes they're doing duets and trios, and it's a lot of fun. And they perform for us, and then I get up and give some masterclassing instruction. One of the performances was of two gentlemen singing a particular song, and what we had to do with one of their voices, because he was kind of doing an echo, to the lead vocal, we had to work on softening his tone, because every time he came in and did his echo, even though it stood alone, it wasn't singing with the lead at the time, it was an echo, it happened by itself. It was too bright, and therefore it came too far forward in the total landscape of what they were doing. And so we softened that tone off to allow it to be more of an echo, not a up and in your face kind of sound. And that was helpful to him, so he said. Another part you want to think about too is breathing together. I often think of the breathing together. Have you ever noticed that when you go to a really good orchestra, or I even see this in the senior orchestras of my children's high school, when you're watching a really good string section, they bow together. So all of their bows go up at the same time and come down together. And the same thing can happen with our breathing. We need to actually nominate where is our breath going to take place. And to do that, it may well mean that you need to sit down, grab a pen, sit down and actually write it out. Put breath marks where everyone is in agreement that you're going to breathe. Now, in some songs that may not be necessary because it kind of can be quite obvious where we're all going to breathe. But at other times, particularly in the times where we have even, more voices than just 2 or 3, when we have an ensemble, it can be necessary for us to actually mark the moment of breath. Where are we going to intake? And that can be really important for unifying our phrasings. It can also, because, a breath, I purposefully made that quite audible, but if you even have very quiet breaths, when you put all of those breaths together, it can make quite a big sound. And so what you want to do, if you are, again, not the lead, or if you're in a choir where breathing can be a bit of a challenge, then you want to create as quiet a breath as you possibly can on the intake. Important to do. And some of those, if you've got a leader out front, directing those breathing moments, then watch. You've got to watch. Understanding and finding your harmony. You want to know, where does your harmony sit? Now, what we're starting to talk about here is a bit more what we refer to as block harmony, chordal harmony. And so typically you're going to have the root, as in what we'll just call the melody, and then you'll often have a third above that, and maybe even a fifth or a fourth below. More often, there's really no rules. I went to say more often than not, you'll have the guy sitting down below, or the female sitting down below, and the guy above. It depends on what voice type is sitting on the root, on the melody. And so then the reason we call it block is because it moves accordingly. Block harmony is kind of the type of harmony we learn in Voice Essentials 3. Where it gets really tricky and a lot of fun is, and I want you to think groups like New York Voices, Voctave, Pentatonics, where our voicings start to be written, so that it's not now just simply I'm listening and singing by ear to the block harmony of chord, but I'm now learning almost what could be nominated as a second melody that runs in counterpoint to the lead vocal. And that's where we really hear, that's where groups like Pentatonics and Voctave sound amazing, not only because, it's a collection of really great singers, but because someone has orchestrated and arranged those notes to really have very cool chordal structures that sit outside that third and fifth and root idea. And then what you can do if you are struggling with with singing harmony, what you can do is just start off by, you can either sing the melody or try to see if you can sing the melody in unison but an octave apart. So if you're singing with a guy, girls, you might like to try and sing it maybe an octave higher and see if you can, match your voice in with that. That gives you the ability, the opportunity to really start listening and blending before you've got to be too concerned with, holding a different pitched note. Dynamic teamwork. You want to shape volume and phrasing as a group, dynamics within group singing is so important when you get the swells and the quieting down. But when the voice, it's so cool when you can listen to really good singers singing in harmony with one another, and you listen not only to them perfectly pitching with each other, but they move. Have you ever seen those birds where those flocks of big, thousands of birds, and they all move in synchronization? And scientists study it because it's fascinating because they're moving so quick. We kind of do that with voice, when we move as one, we move as one voice. It's all different notes and different colors and timbres by virtue of where those voices are sitting, but they move as one, and they move as one with volume as well. It is important to ensure that, when we talked a little bit earlier before about this, let the melody lead. If your job is to play, the backing vocal, don't try to become the lead vocal. Play your role. Singing and music is a team sport, and it only works when everyone does their job. And avoid singing at the same dynamic level throughout. And that, again, is going to come back to the overall design of what the group has decided. Stay in time. And so you've got to really lock in, not only with pitch. Can you notice that I keep sort of directing us away from pitch being the only thing you want to nail? You've got to get all of these other things lined up, and timing is so important because if, for example, and timing is going to affect phrasing, we can't have the lead vocal coming off and then suddenly we have ta-ta-ta-ta, a whole range of other voices giving it a consonant end or what have you, and because it'll just sound really loose. And that won't necessarily be because of bad pitch. Yeah, it can be simply because of bad, loose timing. You want to use crisp consonants for clean cutoffs. Sometimes the backing vocal will even choose to not place their consonant at the end of a phrase. We'll allow the lead vocal to give the consonant, and the BV, the backing vocal, will just leave it open so that we don't get that ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, at the end of phrases. And this little point, it can be helpful, and it can be helpful from the point of view of practice, but you wouldn't want to practice to a metronome to the point where you become a robot. We still need that organic feel throughout the entire piece, especially in contemporary vocals as well. Coming over here, let's one more slide I want to go through, because I want to think about the building of our confidence around this. Again, these are the sort of things that you want to really make sure you are taking the opportunities to do with others. Some practice rehearsal habits. You can start by humming along, so you don't feel like you have to just jump straight in and start singing the lyric. Just find a path. Find, where does the voice in your part that you're singing, where does that need to sit? I would advise, as I said earlier, start off by listening. Having learnt the melody, listen to the singer singing the melody. You're listening to the melodic line, you're listening to their phrasing, you're listening to their breath marks, their dynamics. Then, the next time through, hum. Don't feel like you have to overcommit the voice to positions. And then you can move into, as you start to establish that pathway, then move into where that's going to sit. You can, of course, isolate harmony lines before combining. In Voice Essentials 3, I've provided tracks so that you can actually learn your, a particular line just by itself. It maybe not the melody, but it's just the vocal line that you're going to learn to sing in harmony, and you learn it like a second melody, and then you have to then place that against the first lead melody. And so that can be a really helpful thing to do. And record yourself to check your blend and your accuracy. What you can find is that 90% of what you are singing is working really well in that chordal block. Let's say you're singing by ear, but you might find that there are some moving notes where that note there, where I get to in the middle of that phrase, it's sort of the note I went to is not really the right choice, and it just doesn't sit in the chord really well because it can be passing notes or what have you, and we can get some dissonance and crunch. And so having recorded it, you can go through and identify where are those moments, and then you can fix them up. I do want you to be very careful to protect your voice when you are working in these moments and practicing in harmony with people. You've got to be careful. Remember I was talking about the collective volume of a breath. Well, the collective volume, particularly, and this is a big thing in choirs, the collective volume can really trigger the Lombard effect, where your individual voice can start to compete with how many other voices. Let's say you're in a choir of 20 people. Your voice can start to compete with the 19 other people, and suddenly you've got this volume issue. You're starting to push and drive the voice. It can really play a negative factor. So be mindful of that. Of course, you still need to employ the same disciplines, the warm-ups, the cool-downs, to ensure that your voice is ready to sing, because it is singing. Just sometimes I think we can forget, if we're not the lead singer, we think, oh, well, I'm not the main deal here. Well, firstly, yeah, you are. You're playing your role, and without it, the whole thing doesn't sound as good. But secondly, your voice is still going to be under heightened use, performance level load. So be careful of that. And of course, make sure you hydrate. Hydrate before and during rehearsals. We know all of these things because I talk about them often enough, don't I? Some little beginner-friendly exercises you can do. And what you can do with this is, just listen to, one of your favourite singers on the radio. Do we still listen to the radio? I'm really showing my age there. The wireless. Find your favourite artist on Spotify and try to sing a third above that harmony line and try to hold that. You're not listening for what the harmonies on the actual track are doing. Just try and sing along, particularly first verse chorus. There's often less harmony, backing vocal work at the front end of a song. Just try to sing along with that. Tune your ear into it. A call and response harmony practice. And so that can be where you get together with a group and you can have some people do some call and response, where one part of the group will do some harmony work and then the other group will do some harmony work, and you kind of balance it like that. I've done that before. It can be quite fun. And a listening game, more listening. We kind of almost finish where we left off, where we started, and that is listening. Identify in your favorite artist performances, identify the harmonies in the recordings and start to match to them, start to sing along with them, and I think you'll get a lot of joy out of that. Harmonies are I mean, I personally, I don't get to sing harmony anywhere near as much as I used to when in my early days at the Queensland Conservatorium. I was actually in the for the want of a better term, the elite choir, singing a lot of classical material. It must be said at that stage back in the early 90s. But I've also been in ensembles where I've done backing vocals, backing ensemble work for Barry Manilow and Michael Bolton, and it's so cool to be blended and to know that you are locked in and hear that sound that you as a group are forming into a singularity, and it can be a real buzz. It can be a real buzz. So if you want to get into that, I hope today's look at some of the things that you might want to consider is helpful. Let's go across to a question. But you remember I said I was going to take my jacket off? I'm going to take my jacket off, because now that I've been getting into things, I'll throw it over there. Come back. I was getting warm. Maybe, I don't know whether it's because I was getting worked up or getting excited. I don't know. Let's come across. We've got one question. While we're waiting, let's have a look. Let's also have a look at the poll. We've got 14 votes, a couple more than. Yeah, it's kind of stuck around the same thing that we'll get to it. I'll reveal all later in the show. If you've got questions, make sure you ask those questions in the live chat. Once again, I do want to I was thinking before I came on today, it has been a little while since I've given a shout out to all of you who watch the show as a replay, which is the vast majority of you who watch the show. We have. And like if we think about the life of a live show going over about a week, there's about 500. Sometimes it can be a lot more than that, but on average it's about 500 of you who watch and listen to the show. And so a big shout out to the vast majority of you who would do that. I very thankful and very humbled the fact that you tune in every week, and so I hope you continue to enjoy the special guests that we have coming on and the subjects that we look at. And one of the greatest, compliments I received at the International Congress of Voice Teachers a couple of weeks ago in Canada was, and I have to tell you, I had quite a number of singing teachers, because that's what the event was, it's for singing teachers, come up to me throughout the course of the weekend and say, hey, I use your videos, blah, blah, and some of them wanted to get a photo so that they could show their students, and which was quite cool. But one of them said, and because I often responded to that feedback saying, what video are you using? And one of them said, it was, I actually use a particular section of one of your videos where you gave an explanation. I think it was for ventricular folds, false folds, and it was simply a response I'd given to one of your questions live here on the channel. It wasn't a pre-recorded section. It was literally just what I said in response to your question. So there you go. When you ask a question in the live chat, who knows where the answer will end up? I thought that was pretty cool. I really did. I thought, wow, okay. The live show is finding its way into lecture halls and what have you. Maybe not live, but certainly after the fact, which is really a lot of fun. Okay, so get your live questions in right now. We do have one. We've got this one here from, if I can, where am I? I'm going to go over here. Oh, hang on a second. No, I'm going to go here. Let's come to yours truly. is asking, can a vocal range type, a vocal type, sing another vocal range type part? Can they be substituted for one another to maximize vocal excellence? There's a couple of ways I could interpret that. I'll tell you the way I'm going to interpret it. Can one, let's say, can I as a tenor sing the soprano part or the mezzo-soprano part and have my voice simply substitute for what would have been the mezzo-soprano? Kind of, but it's going to have some challenges. Yours truly, if this is not what you meant by how I'm going to answer it, then certainly jump in and add some clarification to your question. Certainly, I mean, I could probably get my voice to a point where it could, with relative acceptability, sing the part of a mezzo-soprano. But when we talk about that, we're only considering, can my tenor voice sing the notes of the mezzo-soprano? Again, what we're not accounting for there is the sense of the comfort of that sound, because for my voice to get up to where the mezzo-soprano might be sitting, I might have some strain in my sound, and so that's going to colour the tone of that, which will impact my phrasing almost certainly, and the sense of shape that vocal is going to have. And so on one level, yeah, I can get up there, or the tenor voice can get up there, but there's a whole range of other things that are going to be impacted by that choice. Now, we have to recognize that there are some people on the planet, sometimes we might refer to them as freaks, who, like in a really positive way, they're freaks, who are able to do that and make it sound awesome, yeah? And in fact, it's that very nature of substitution that kind of gives it a real excitement. But in general, for most of us, I think there are going to be some barriers or hurdles to making that work. And so, again, I hope that answers in the manner that you were asking the question. What you certainly can't do is be a biological male, and again, I'm not going to talk to the issues around trans here, but where we are a biological male and decide, well, let's just say I'm a biological tenor, my DNA is tenor, and I'm going to, what you can't do is purposefully decide from now on I'm going to be a DNA baritone. We've talked about that a lot here on the channel. You know, the only time my voice ever gets anywhere close to sounding like a baritone is when I am, you know, relatively unwell and my vocal folds are significantly swollen to the point where I shouldn't be singing at all. And so these are important points to note in our choices around what we're doing with our voice and where we're choosing to sit it. And in one of my videos, we talk, in fact, I think in a couple of my videos, we've talked about the idea of prima voce. Your voice is going to sit in it's usually around about an octave and a half space comfortably. Yeah, and so you've got to really identify that comfortable space and make some definite choices to kind of orientate to that. You have notes that sit outside of that relatively comfortable space called your seconda voce, your secondary voice, and we certainly sing into those spaces, but you wouldn't want to find yourself, like before I was talking about being tenor, if I had to sing a mezzo-soprano line, I'm probably going to find myself right up at the least very top of my prima voce, maybe into my seconda voce. And if I'm going to have to sit my voice there, just even for a whole song, that is going to have a very high fatiguing impact on my voice. And so that's something to consider. We don't have any other questions coming in today, which is, I must admit, is a bit of a surprise. We usually have a few more. Obviously, you're all sitting there thinking very carefully. Not a problem. We will think about wrapping up. I'm going to do the poll in a second. Want to let you know we are going to be doing another live vocal analysis. I've already put the notification up onto the Facebook group page, and I think from memory, when I think it was Mackenzie Kate who was the first cab off the rank. She was quick, as Mackenzie Kate often is, who is not in the live chat today. So I think the next one may well be Mackenzie Kate singing for us, and we'll do an analysis of her performance, and which is always terrific to be able to do. And so let's end the poll. There's 15 votes, incidentally. 3, 2, 1, and here's the results. The results are in. What's the trickiest part of harmony singing? I don't think this comes as any surprise to us. Finding my starting note is the biggest one. I've certainly struggled with that myself. Not drifting into the melody, especially when you've got a really strong melody. That can be, actually, it equally can be difficult when your lead vocal is not strong and they themselves drift around a bit. Then it can be hard to sort of track, and sometimes you can find yourself, drifting into their lane a bit. Breathing at the right time. We talked about the breathing together. And the least was staying in tune with others. It's interesting, the staying in tune with others, I think, possibly could be, if I might be so bold, possibly one of the hardest things to do because, as we've talked before here at the channel, you're staying in tune. We are all biological instruments, and so we are all, pitch-wise imperfect. And so actually what we're trying to do when we sing harmonies together is we are trying to match 2 imperfect voices, 3, 4, 5 imperfect voices, and maintain that pitch, and that can be a challenge. Well, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed today's live hangout. I am really looking forward to having Tania on the show next week. She is, I really, there was one particular Hindley Street country club performance that she recently did. I think she was doing backing vocals for Cat Jade. I can't remember the song. I've already recorded the reaction. Anyway, it's good singing. It is really good singing. So it's going to be a real treat to talk with her next week. And I hope you can join us. If you've enjoyed today's show, hit the thumbs up button. You know what to do. Don't forget to hit the what is it called? The white bell icon, and make sure you get the notifications for each week. And I look forward to seeing you again when we'll do it all again. Because it's a lot of fun, isn't it? I'm going to finish off by telling you, I look forward to hanging out with you all. I do. Every week. I see we've got Monday coming up. Let's hang out. It's always good to see what is often in the live chat such joyous, respectful, encouraging discussion. And I want to thank you all for continuing to cultivate that nature and nurture in the community. Let's keep doing it. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.